We're continuing our focus on Suicide Awareness Month with former TV6 Morning News anchor Elizabeth Peterson. Now, she's been sharing the stories this week of suicide loss survivors and the work they're doing to raise awareness and educate the community.
This morning, she joins us in the studio with another story from her series, Suicide Loss Survivors Finding a Path Forward. Elizabeth?
Good morning, everyone. The National Institutes of Health reports suicide loss survivors are up to 3 times more likely to die by suicide themselves compared to those who have lost a loved one to other causes. It's an alarming statistic, prompting community leaders to implement increased support and resources for those in a post-vention situation. This morning, my conversation with Aimee Emmons, a suicide loss survivor and a suicide attempt survivor, her fight to find healing while grieving her father and learning to love herself.
It was kind of a culmination of a lifetime, you know. I watched my dad struggle all throughout his life, you know, growing up. He had a lot on his shoulders. He had a lot of people that relied on him, and he did a lot of good in this world, but he always struggled.
Aimee Emmons' father, Mike, ran an adult foster care home in Bark River. He worked to better the community and the lives of those around him. But Aimee says he also had an unhealthy relationship with alcohol that battered his body. He needed a new liver. He was suffering from seizures. His health was failing.
Life got really real, and he finally started to talk and to open up. And he was carrying a lifetime full of grief. And when that is so in your face and you have no choice but to look at everything you've done, it's hard. It's hard. And he was struggling, but he was trying. He was trying for all of us, for his family, for his grandkids, for everybody around him.
On December 29th, 2022, Mike died by suicide at the age of 52. Aimee lost her biggest supporter, her best friend, her father.
I think in his mind, he was making it easier on all of us, so we wouldn't have to take him to the appointments, and we wouldn't have to worry, and we wouldn't have to do this and that. And I think he thought that was the right thing to do. But in doing that, you know, he kind of just passed off the torch to everyone around him. You know, he's not suffering anymore, and for that I'm thankful, but the grief doesn't go away. It doesn't go anywhere. It still sits in me and sits in the grandkids, my siblings, my family, and all the people around him.
Aimee says she was never mad at her dad. His perspective was his, but her heart was broken.
When he died, it was like the rug got pulled out from underneath me. But in the time after, I didn't even know what to do. Nobody tells you how to handle that.
She went to work. She kept busy. She did anything she could but deal with the loss.
I never really talked. I never really talked about how I felt. I never really acknowledged it, never really paid attention to it.
And then she woke up in the ICU and spent a week in Green Bay after her own attempted suicide, now looking at her life with a new perspective.
I realized that nothing I was doing was helping. I was only hurting myself. And there was so many things in my life that I could look at and I could say, this is wrong, I don't like this, I don't know why I've been putting up with this, I don't know why I'm doing this to myself. And I came home and I finally reached out.
Aimee went home and confided in a friend. She laid everything out and a light switch turned on.
That one conversation was life-changing. And after that, I kind of completely threw away everything I thought I knew about mental health and the treatment of it, and I realized I had to start over. I was starting from scratch.
For her, that meant sitting with herself and being honest, listening to that little voice guiding her to make positive changes. She began to own her life, her story, and loving herself and her journey.
You cannot shame yourself into change. You cannot. The only thing that brings true, meaningful change is love. And you have to love yourself even when you don't think anything matters, even when you don't think you're worth it, even when there's a million reasons why you could think otherwise. You have to love yourself, and you have to become so solid in who you are and what you believe and what you know and what you want to put out into this world that nobody can tell you any different.
Aimee began to find the good in every day, no matter how small. She stopped focusing on why things were bad. She forgave the people who hurt her. She forgave her father. She stopped talking negatively to herself. She celebrated each day, each moment.
There's no right or wrong way. There's no golden key for everyone. You have to find it on your own. You have to love yourself enough to want to help yourself. And even getting to that point is very hard, very hard.
It was one conversation, one friend who showed up, one small moment of raw vulnerability. Aimee says today her mission is to help others by being a light, by being a safe space, by offering a little piece of the good she admired in her dad.
Every day I think about that man. And I love him so much, and I loved who he was as a person. I don't think I've ever met anyone in this world that had a bigger heart than he did.
Aimee said over and over in our interview, now is the time that we need to start taking care of one another. And in that spirit, I again want to remind you, if you or someone you know is struggling or in a suicidal crisis, help is available. Call 988. The Suicide and Crisis Lifeline is available 24 hours a day. We also have a list of resources available on our website, uppermichigansource.com, under the Suicide Prevention Resources tab on the homepage.